Okay, fine, I'll end it here, okay? I was talking about how women play stupid about the fact that it's more evil for a woman to sleep around. She's the one who gets pregnant and doesn't know who the baby daddy is, you know, uh, and she's the one who's supposed to protect her body more. You know, she gets looser. The man's dick arguably gets bigger, right? She has more to lose. Okay, women tend to have more STDs, and that has to do with the body mechanics and so on. There's a long list of reasons: spiritual, natural, cultural, logical, that prove definitively women are playing themselves, trying to be that way, and it's evil for them to play that way, and they're selling their souls for power in the workplace. So we look at in the white male heterosexual patriarchy, it means men are less likely to be sexually exploited in the workplace if it is a heterosexual patriarchy. But we don't really see that. We've seen the kind of split between the gays and the heterosexual guys. But it was more stigmatized for a gay to coerce men into sex back then, and we're moving into an era where you're going to see it more often, so they can blur the line between the genders. So moving on. Back in Illuminati Part 1, I went back and I talked about how whites used to go to Egypt long ago. They used to steal ideas, okay? And, I was right. Obviously, they're trying to steal my place and so on. And they couldn't have proven me more right, and so are other groups of people. And I go as far as to say they're eventually going to scream me out. And that's all she wrote. So we go back to, we look at certain families and certain traits, right? Who looks like a jackal, right? You look at this certain elfish kind of look, an elf look, a kind of jackal look. They say people look like they're dogs. The jackal looks like a wolf, right? It's even been compared to a wolf and a dog. And there's confusion about whether Set was a jackal and a wolf and a dog at some points in history, and still with some people, I'm sure. So, we can look at this, and I could talk about people in different places, talk about how Luke Skywalker, General Petraeus, this is some kind of extended family or a common ancestor and so on, and they're allowed to be placed in positions as a result. And we see these kind of traits in different races, different black, I see a lot in black people and people who are considered Jews and white people a lot. Okay, so this is some kind of white Semitic alliance. We look at the timeline of Rothschild, the Battle of Waterloo. Certainly before that, there was a white Semitic alliance. Rothschild was already influential before, he really started gaining control over everything on record. So we go back to the 1600s when they colonized Biafra. The slave trade in America, they took Jaja, who was a key member of the Arochukwu faction of the Igbos, if you will, who were strategically located to sell slaves, and they must have mistaken him for a key spiritual figure in truth in the Igbo structure, when he was somebody who emerged through the trade to establish himself, but it wasn't the same as having a true spiritual relevance that goes back to Egypt and to the leopard descendants of Ra, so to speak. So we look at Ethiopian Ari. One way to look at it is the story of Horus and Set is that these guys went back to Assyria or Palestine, etc. The guys who were the followers of Set, and they eventually merged with Apep. And the guys who were the followers of Horus, they couldn't go down to Nubia and Ethiopia back to their homes for the most part, because they were at odds with these people from years of fighting with these people and different campaigns and putting down rebellions. So they had to go to the heart of Africa, to Biafra, be of Ra, Ari, and we have a lot of distinctive, proof and evidence, linguistic evidence, and archaeological evidence, religious evidence, and on, an abundance of evidence. Okay. To me, it's very conclusive. So we look at what periods are they talking about. The Nikeda period. Nikeda is also Ombos, Set's cult center. We see this kind of thing here. It's quite possible that some of the followers of Set actually went to the temple of Nekin, where they were able to keep some of their identity, and but ultimately were submissive to Narmer and the patron of Nekin and the different pharaohs and priests who were there. All right, so when we look at the timeline in the movie Tears of the Sun and how in popular culture it also verifies what the abundance of evidence points to. So eventually, the CIA would stop the plane, and my dad would be brought to America, to Detroit, during a period of turmoil and race riots, which would logically turn him against the white power structure on behalf of the globalists, but both sides are wrong. I don't take sides. I'm not going to choose anybody. And so he was then assigned to, Santa Clara County. And was less than, San Jose is less than, it's 1 to 2% black. When I first checked, it was 1%. Last time I checked, earlier today, I believe it was 2%. Okay, they know that eventually they figured out the Igbo leader emerges, and they looked to see what kind of the combination of traits he would have, and certainly my dad fit the description, and also because of the location, the cult center of Eri, which almost certainly is a result of the Biafrans, the followers of Ra, okay, their extended family. They went back home when eventually people started acting like bitches, the true priesthood of Ra, and eventually some of the people who from the Eri group of Ethiopians, right? I would say these are two distinctive groups of people, and they're related and they're not. It's hard to pinpoint that, but certainly there's a connection there. But it's more of a spiritual connection where Horus emerges as the true direction of mankind, the true son of Ra. And it was naturally done. No servant can be greater. Every cult in the world is supposed to serve basically my family bloodline. And in the absence of that, there is no legitimacy. Okay, and again, I say figure it out. This guy was a martial artist, and look at his shape. He was tall and athletic build, a leopard build, and he emerged with this kind of pure. The leopard can be seen as God creating the light and the dark, and the sun moving through the light and the dark, okay, and the solar boat and so on. And the hawk can be seen as the truest direction and the true direction of humanity in the pure sun spirit, and ultimately everything is sealed, it's written, and this is what God wanted for humanity. There's no servant can be greater. Somewhere in the Bible it is. I don't really care to fucking look it up. I'm not a Christian. I do believe that Christianity was a reaction to the martial arts structure. There's a lot of truth in it, and the main reason it clashed with Judaism, from what I gather, is the insistence on the Sun Temple version and certain subtle allusions, if you will, to martial arts ideology and values and beliefs. They went further than the Jews to be like Ra, and as a result, they were screened out. But also, at some point, from what I gather, we see Apis and Osiris and Hades merging together. So the other possibility is that this thing from the start, from its inception, was evil, wicked, and they intended to superimpose Hades, right? Pluto is the old name for Hades, okay? It's not just comparable to Hades, it's the old name. And Pluto means the rich. So why did they change the name? Because they wanted to change the idea and pretend that the rich are the good guys, and you see that the right wing is doing that. You see that the left wing Christians are subtly doing that. There's twisting the message to make it seem like the rich, who according to their own scriptures, I've gone over time and time again, Matthew 19, 23 through 24, the camel and the eye of a needle. That these people are supposed to be seen as scum that betray us. We're supposed to teach our children to value the spirit and not financial stability. As certainly we see there are so many places where man has testified against himself and deserves to be punished by the same type of filth who see it their way. And I'll end this by saying this. When the average man comes across a Luciferian, they don't stop everything they're doing and say, that's an oppressor, boo him, how dare you, you're scum. Why are you doing this to us? Why don't you stop? Because they look the same way as they do. They think the same way they do. They dress, they eat, they have one culture or another, libertarian, Republican, Democrat, they're this, InfoWars, right? All this is Luciferian garbage. It's manifest destiny garbage, trying to steal the destiny of the manifest, and they messed up because the true direction, the true bloodline of Ra. Now, this is also another key idea. It comes from person to person. It is not in this group. The idea of the Igbo leader emerging is a half-truth. The Igbo leader emerges, but he emerges from this direction, from this bloodline. Okay, he is born. The true leader, you gotta make it's right here in the distinction. The Igbo leader is the true leader in reality. He is the leader of all humanity. Okay, he is, in this case, because of where Ari went. Whether that was always that way is a little bit more controversial. Okay, but at some point it became that way. The Igbo leader was the leader of Egypt, was the natural direction of all of humanity. Okay, so it went from one person to another, to another, to another. So it went somewhere, it went somewhere my ancestors came to my father, right, and then came to me. Okay, not my brothers, not my cousins, not other Igbos. Nobody else in the world can truly bring forth the true seed of Ra, or the Pharaoh who is the only begotten son of Ra. It has to be one of my sons that manifests certain traits. Okay, and from there, they can breed with other families, but they've rejected that idea, and they think that they can do things like give people AIDS, like South Africans and all these people. You know, I'll tell you this, even if I had every disease there was, you know, there's a potential to cure these diseases. And the important thing is that this is the only way for humanity. There is no cheating the system. Why would God allow you to say, all you have to do is disease them, and then you have to choose one of us? No, that's stupid. Logic, religion, history, the facts, everything lines up on this issue. It has to be my son, and you have to love and respect him and give him his rightful place. What you didn't do for me. And because of this, we see that the direction is lost. And this is also part of what you see in cultures, right? Why people value son. Give me a son, give me a son. It goes back to being like trying to democratize the Pharaoh's power. Him saying, I need a son to pass on the spirit of Ra to keep this thing going. Ra production, reproduction. So the Pharaoh, you know, if he needs to, he can have 1,000 wives. Preferably he has one. But it transcends any individual. What's going on is more important than my life. It's more important than her life. Okay? If I'm going to have 1,000 wives and then I die as a result, but then the next heir comes in, I've done my job. But at the end of the day, now that we're down to this guy who's being shunned by all these women, you know, when I die, it's done. And Luciferianism becomes Satanism, whether or not they pretend to be Luciferian still. They're going to be sowing on and on after the sun gate closes. Who would want to give birth when the sun is gone? Who would want to live? Who would want to go to the fucking beach without the sun? That's the point, right? Who would want to grow organic, you know, natural, vegetables without the sun? It's the same idea, right? The fertility cycle. The sun is key to this. Okay? Without him, there is no spiritual fertility. It's just waste, right? What you see is the most despicable thing man can do is what they're doing. It's way more despicable than eating your own shit in front of everybody and demanding they do the same. Because you're sitting on that which is sacred. It is just like Jesus said, it's not necessarily what goes into someone's mouth that makes them unclean, it's what's come out. What comes out of these cowards' mouths is shitting on the sacred reproductive cycle and trying to get me to conform and make concessions with evil scum. People that are way beneath me. They're concerned where God set down his feet, right? They're concerned with this world, right? Beneath my feet. They're concerned with what is beneath my feet and not what came down from heaven. Despicable. And what is soil anyway? It's like mixed animal feces in dirt that grows vegetables. Think about what life really is. You are walking sacks of shit. Then the rain brings piss on the crops, you know, and there's piss, the traces of piss and chemicals in the water. And and you're basically a disgusting, revolting being without God. You're just a disgusting fuck in a floating shithole floating around the sun, and the sun can only give you light. It doesn't give you anything spiritual after I'm gone. So it goes back to all. All, pan is all. Pan means all. Pedophile activity is part of all. All perspectives considered, every scumbag, every lukewarm bitch, everybody except for my perspective. It is all of this world is their perspective. Every lowly worm, every lowly criminal getting to influence the reproductive cycle of humanity and the culture. That is their perspective. There's no two ways about it. It's why democracy is wrong. It's why communism is wrong. It's wrong. National socialism is wrong. Fascism is wrong. It's why everything's wrong but the monarchy. These are just copycat bitches. Okay? They sold out for the cat, right? The kitty, the pussy. They're copycat pussies. You know, would you go up to a lion or a leopard and say, here, kitty, kitty? You know, that's bitch shit. They're on some bitch shit. What you see is these people are on some despicable bitch shit. The sun gate will close after I'm gone. And then what's going to happen? Everyone's fucked. You know, they're making the best out of a shithole. It reminds me of, I'll end on this. It reminds me of this book I read about the Civil War, where these guys were looking very skinny, and they're forced to eat shit and drink contaminated water to survive, because the Confederates weren't feeding them well, okay? It's like, why would you want to subject yourself to that? Fight to the death. You know, when you're facing this extreme torture and this decadent, deprived of the sun, depraved lifestyle for you and your children, my goodness, it is time to prepare them for death. And I'm not necessarily saying you should do that. But you know what the fuck I am saying. And that I was saying for the bitches. Thank you.